sight of the three-brained beings, and even then, of course, only of normal beings. Furthermore, according to the law called heteratogitar, these Salnichizin-Nuarnian momentum vibrations, or rays, acquire the property of acting on the organs of perception of beings only after they have passed a limit defined by science in the following formula. The result of the manifestation is proportionate to the force of striving received from the shock. And so, as the given process of the clash of the two parts of the Okidanoch has the strength of great power, the result of the clash is manifested much further than the place of its arising. Now look. Having said this, he pressed some other button, and suddenly the whole interior of the Har-Ha-Har-Zaha was filled with the same blinding light which, as I've already told you, I experienced when I was outside the Har-Ha-Har-Zaha. It appeared that the said light was obtained because by pressing this button, Gornahur Har-Har had again opened that part of the wall of the Har-Ha-Har-Zaha which had the property of permitting rays to pass through it. As he explained further, the light was only a consequence of the result of the striving to reblend into a whole of the parts of the Okidanoch proceeding in that absolutely empty space within the Har-Ha-Har-Zaha, and manifested owing to what is called reflection from outside back to the place of its arising. After this he continued as follows. I shall now demonstrate to you how and by what combinations of the processes of Jat-Klam and of the striving to reblend into a whole of the active parts of Okidanoch there arise in planets from what are called the minerals which compose their interior presence, definite formations of varying densities, as for instance mineraloids, gases, metalloids, metals, and so on. How these latter are afterwards transformed owing to these same factors one into another, and how the vibrations flowing from these transformations constitute just that totality of vibrations which gives the planets themselves the possibility of stability in the process called the common system harmonious movement. For my proposed demonstrating, I must obtain, as I always do, the necessary materials from outside, which my pupils will give me by means of appliances which I have prearranged. It is interesting to remark that while he was speaking, he was at the same time tapping with his left foot on a certain something, very much like what your favorites call the famous Morse transmission apparatus, famous, be it said, of course, only on the planet Earth. And a little later there slowly ascended from the lower part of the Har-Ha-Har-Zaha a small something like a box, also with transparent walls, within which, as it proved later, were certain minerals, metalloids, metals, and various gases in liquid and solid states. Then, with the aid of various appliances which were at one side of the table, he first of all, with complicated manipulation, took out from the box some what is called red copper, and placed it on the mentioned plate, and then said, "This metal is a definite planetary crystallization and is one of the densities required for the said stability in the process called the common system harmonious movement. It is a formation from preceding processes of the action of the parts of the omnipresent Okidanoch, and at the present moment I wish to allow the subsequent transformation of this metal to proceed artificially and acceleratedly by means of the peculiarities of the same factors. I wish to aid artificially the evolution and involution of its elements towards a greater density, or, on the contrary, towards their transformation back to a primal state. To make the picture of the further elucidatory experiments clearer to you, I find I must first inform you, even if only briefly, of my first personal scientific deductions concerning the evidence of the causes and conditions owing to which there proceeds in the planets themselves the crystallizing of separate parts of the Oki-Danoch in these and the other said definite formations. Evidently, first of all, any non-law conformable Jart-Klom of the omnipresent Oki-Danoch which is in the presence of every planet, its separate parts are localized in the medium of that part of the presence of the planet, that is to say, in that mineral, which was at the given moment in the place where the said non-law conformable Jart-Klom occurred. And so, if what is called the vibration of the density of the elements of the said medium has an affinity of vibration with the said active part of the omnipresent Oki-Danoch, then, according to the world law symmetrical entering, this active part blends with the presence of the said medium and becomes an inseparable part of it. And from that moment the given parts of the omnipresent Oki-Danoch begin, together with the said elements of the said medium, to represent the corresponding densities required in planets. That is to say, various kinds of metalloids or even metals, as for instance the metal I have placed in this sphere, and in which there will proceed artificially at this moment, at my wish, the action of striving to reblend into a whole of the parts of the Oki-Danoch, and which metal, as I've already said, exists under the name of red copper. And further, having arisen in the planets in this way, the said various metalloids and metals then begin, according to the common universal law called reciprocal feeding of everything existing, as it is generally proper to arisings of every kind in which Oki-Danoch or of any of its active parts participates, to radiate from their presences the results of their inner interchange of substances. And as is proper to radiations of every kind issuing from sur- and intraplanetary formations that have acquired in their vibrations the property of Oki-Danoch, or of its active parts, and which are in what is called the center of gravity of every such said formation, the radiations of these metalloids and metals possess properties almost similar to the properties of Oki-Danoch itself, and of one or another of its active parts. When the said masses of different densities that have thus arisen in planets under normal surrounding conditions radiate from their common presences the vibrations required for the said world law of reciprocal feeding of everything existing, then, among these vibrations of various properties, there is established, owing to the fundamental world law, troe medechfe, a reciprocally acting contact. And the result of this contact is the chief factor in the gradual change of the various densities in planets. My observations over many years have almost fully convinced me that it is owing only to the said contact and its results that there is actualized the stability of harmonious equilibrium of planets. This metal red copper, which I have placed in the sphere of my proposed artificial actualization of the action of the active parts of Oki-Danoch, has at this moment what is called a specific density, reckoning from the unit of density of the sacred element Theomertamalokos of 444, that is to say, the atom of this metal was 444 times more dense, and as much less vivifying than the atom of the sacred Theomertamalogos.